super important that you teach your dog how to chill. And I think the key there is teach, especially if you do have a high energy breed, or your dog's personality is, profile is just that one of exuberance and over exuberance and joy. And you can't just assume that they know how to do that.
Welcome to the Pet Care Report podcast by Pet Summits. Here's your dog training host, Melissa Vieira.
Hello and welcome back to the Pet Care Report. I'm super excited for today's episode because we're going to talk about high energy dogs. So if you have a dog at home that you believe has some excess energy, then you're going to want to stick around for today's episode. Our expert guest today is Kelly Dunbar. Kelly is the training director at Serious Puppy and Dog Training, which is a dog training business known for pioneering puppy training. Kelly is also a key contributor to the curriculum for the Dunbar Academy, as well as co-founder of Open Paw, which is a nonprofit that provides training to shelter workers in order to help them enhance the lives of shelter dogs. In addition, Kelly is an international speaker and writer, as well as a professional dog training mentor and the founder of the Dog Training League. Thank you so much, Kelly, for being here today. I think you know a thing or two about high energy dogs. I believe you like high energy dogs, as I do myself. So can you tell us a little bit more about your own dogs?
Yes, hello. So good to see you. I think we have that in common, right? We love to do things with our dogs, and the more energy, the better. I've got a lot of dogs, but I do French ring sport, which is a protection and obedience and agility based sport that is French, which is a very it's an old traditional sport that it helps you to decide who the working dogs are going to be. It's a working dog test, basically, right? So I do French ring sport with my Belgians. I've got two that are titled at different levels, a ring 2 dog and a ring 1 dog who's still in progress, and now a new puppy. I have terriers. I'm about to embark in, I don't think you even know this, about to embark in obedience, AKC obedience, with my border terrier.
Ooh.
Yeah, maybe some other hunting type stuff for her as well. So, and I've got some other various dogs that I do things with. I like to do scent work. I used to be a judge for scent work competitions. Probably going to do some detection with my retired Belgians. So getting dogs out into the world to do the things they were kind of bred to do, to kind of scratch that itch, that they have, that genetic itch, is something that I'm pretty passionate about. And, I like dogs for what they are and who they are. And I think it's one of the best ways to celebrate that is to take them out and do the thing.
I like that you say that you like them for who they are, because it's not just trying to change them. And a lot of pet parents might think they have an overly excitable dog and they just want to change that dog to be much calmer. But it's more so of finding an outlet and trying to figure out who that dog is and how you can best help that individual dog. So I like that you say that. Do you have any tips for pet parents who believe that maybe they have a high energy dog and they're struggling a little bit? So where can they start?
Well, high energy dog, first of all, I think, what is a high energy dog versus just a dog, right? I think anybody who has a dog that is under 2 years old is likely to have a high energy dog, because age does play a role, right? If you've got an adolescent dog, something usually between 6 months and 18 months to 2 years, they're at their most energetic, if you will. And and then there are breeds that have the tendency to have a little more, pack a little more punch and continue to be energetic throughout the rest of their lives. I think it's important to distinguish the difference between a high energy dog that perhaps has super specific, or for the average owner, high level of exercise as a requirement, versus a dog that might be just bored, or is just a dog that isn't getting their basic needs met. And when we talk about basic needs, most people think about water and food and maybe a dog bed and maybe a training class, perhaps a few chew toys. but and walks. People will talk about how they want to take their dog for walks. For some people, a dog park is even something they think their dog needs, dog interaction. But more specifically, what they need is mental stimulation, and again, something that scratches the itch that they were bred for. And we have a lot of mixes out there, a lot of beautiful mixed breeds and or purpose bred mixes, as well as purebred dogs that are out there. And you may not even really know what your dog is, but first of all, there are tests. They're not perfect, but the embark, and what's the other one? Isn't there another one too?
Yeah, there's a few of them.
There's
Yeah.
several. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can do you can do a genetic test if you don't know what your dog is, or you can just search on the internet and try to figure it out. But really, it doesn't matter, because your dog is going to tell you.
Yes. Absolutely.
what they like to do, what they need to do, and it might not necessarily match what they are. So I have somebody right now who got what did they get? Oh, it was a Landseer Newfoundland.
Okay.
And it's very big, kind of lumbering. Usually, giant breed dogs are slower dogs. They're not. They lie around a lot, right? But this dog is from working stock, and she wants to swim and retrieve like the best of them. So and this becomes very obvious. You have dogs that will pick up things in their mouths all the time, and want to carry and parade things around. You've got dogs that will dive into puddles if they get any chance. Dogs that are digging. I think they get in the most trouble. So these are dogs that are telling you that they have a certain need to do something. Sniffing and ranging, and even scavenging when they're out. These are dogs that maybe want to hunt and sniff and use their noses. So you don't need to know what your dog's breed is in order to figure out what they like. But once you know what they enjoy, rather than just trying to stop that, the way, as you said earlier, just like, please stop doing the thing. I would invite people to flip that script and actually just allow them to do the thing, but with control. Put these behaviors on cue, turn them into tricks, find a class that can be an outlet. And you don't have to become a world levels competitor in order to practice the craft that your dog enjoys, right? So if your dog is very sniffy and wants to always find things in the garden or on walks, is just got their nose to the ground or nose up to the air all the time, you don't have to go and become a detection or search and rescue worker. But you can easily play games with your dog and hide things in the house and in the garden. You can take classes. There's scent work classes online as well as in various facilities, and you can use this as a launching pad. I would like to talk to you more about this specifically. Just informally do tricks that are fun. So maybe with a dog that likes to find things, and they're always finding your socks or things that you don't want them to find, teach them, put value into something else through training, and then teach them to find your keys, your shoes, whatever it may be. So I know you're a big proponent of turning obedience and basic behaviors into tricks, and I think that's one of the smartest things that people can do, because it's fun at both ends of the leash.
So much fun,
right? And
yeah.
For me, the thing about tricks versus obedience, or teaching your dog commands, is just that your tone changes, right? Like when you say sit, you might say it nicely if you have a cookie in your hand. Not you, but one might be like sit, 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 sit. No, sit, sit, Fifi, sit. And whereas if you're like find it, you're going to be like, go get the thing, and you root for them, and your face changes, your demeanor changes. It's not necessarily a skill that they have to do, because we think, well, my dog must sit before they go out the door, and there are some reasons for safety, that we want them to do these behaviors, but nobody really thinks my dog has to wave right now. They have to sit pretty and wave, and nobody's getting angry if they don't get it right. and you just become more creative. Yeah, I think that's the key is it keeps everybody happy and light. It builds relationship. And what do you think? I think the minute you, for a lot of people, the minute they let go of the idea that there's a certain criteria that they have to hit, I find they actually get better results.
It's a little bit more relaxed. Yeah. And I think once you, in anything, once you get moving on it, once you get the ball rolling, you're more inspired to continue, and not just dog training. Like if you're trying to exercise, you have to just convince yourself to like get up in the morning and start. Like you just have to start somewhere. So with dog training, if you start with tricks where there's a lot less pressure, then you got that ball rolling and you're starting to move forward and make some changes, hopefully, and start a new habit. So yeah, I think that's a great idea. As you know, I love trick training.
Yeah, and with tricks, I mean, we call them tricks, but it's all tricks to
It's all
dogs,
the same.
and
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
and it really is just our perception. And to do some of the tricks that might pop into your head, you've still this is where it gets tricky, and where a trainer is tricking the trainee. You have
No
to
pun
teach foundation.
intended.
Yeah, this is getting kind of, yeah. You have to have some basic foundation obedience in order to get tricks, but you can do it through tricks. So um, enrichment, mental enrichment, honoring the dog that is inside, honoring the dogginess of your dog, and giving them a proper outlet, an approved outlet, if you will, um, is the way to manage energy. One of the ways to manage energy. We can talk about a few other things, but I think one of my goals in my career is to teach people to enjoy behavior versus always want to tamp it down or stop it and quash it.
Right. I love that.
It's, you got a dog because you wanted to have fun and do things, or because you liked that breed or found them interesting, and you've got to kind of hold up your end of the bargain, and um, bring some enrichment and joy into their lives as well.
Absolutely. Now, on the other side of that, so let's say we're giving our dogs all of these outlets, we're meeting their needs. What is a way to teach them how to shut off? So some of your favorite tips, because you do have dogs that like to work. So I'm sure you have some really great tips for that shut off switch. And it's still important to, of course, teach them that there is a time that we're not working and I don't want you to offer behaviors to me. So what are some of your favorite tips for the, so to speak, the shut off switch?
And it's super important that you teach your dog how to chill. And I think the key there is teach, especially if you do have a high energy breed, or your dog's personality is, profile is just that one of exuberance and over exuberance and joy. And you can't just assume that they know how to do that. And and again, part of that might be their own personality, but I think what we often do early in a dog's life, like in their early adolescence, or when we first get a dog or a puppy, we try to tire them out as a way to get them to relax, with physical exercise, right? And so this is kind of counterintuitive, but one of the first tips I will give people is to practice relaxing with the same amount of attention and energy that you do when you're exercising time, and not to always not to over exercise your dog. And I don't even mean like, oh, this is too much for their little bones or bodies at a certain age, although there is that too. But the more that you throw that ball with the chuck it, the more that you get that high, crazy kind of intense going, like, I'm going to burn this puppy out. We're going to run and we're going to play chuck it for half an hour until they're panting and their tongues lolling and they come in and crash. Well, you might get that. You might get to that point for a little while where the dog is, pretty exhausted, but you're also conditioning your dog.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right. You're conditioning them physically. Anybody who, and most of you will be familiar with the term runner's high. People come in from, if you got a marathon runner and they're somebody in your life that's kind of addicted to running, it's just that they're addicted to running. Like, it feels good. The chemical boost that they get from that, is really quite strong. And so they're now, if you're a runner, you're getting physically stronger, which means you can run further and faster, and it's harder to tire you. You have more endurance, and also you come in and you're kind of jazzed. You're not exhausted anymore. Now you're kind of like, what's next? So I'm sure people with high energy dogs can relate to that idea of like, okay, we would just spend an hour at the park, and you come in the house, and they're like, what's next? What are we gonna do now? Instead of being tired. So you can unintentionally condition your dog to become a canine athlete. This doesn't mean that they don't need exercise, but you're not necessarily going to exercise yourself to calmness is really the key, and in a lot of cases, at least not for long. You might get away with it for a little while. So there's that. But then there's also making sure that when you do interact with your dog, like if you've been gone for a few hours because you are at work, or if you work from home but your dog is separate from you, when you greet them, I would have greetings just be kind of mellow and lovey versus super excited. I wouldn't run into the house right after work and say, "Let's go for a run right away," because now you're building anticipation. I like to say, "Hey, I'm home. Come in, chill out with me for a while. I need to break. I need to sit down. Why don't you come and have a chew, or come and I'll pet you for a while and rub your belly, and then maybe we'll play." Because you can kind of get yourself into a vicious cycle with that as well. And if you add to that to the park and the running, now you've really got kind of a canine junkie on your hand, exercise junkie on your hand. And then there is practicing chilling out. And how do we do that? Right? Um, I, a lot of us use placemats or cot beds, like little platform beds, or any dog bed will do. And you can even do this on your couch if you really want to. But practicing going to your mat or going to your bed and staying there, or to your platform, is a very useful skill, but it's still kind of an active skill. Right. So I think you and I both do the same thing, where we'll station our dogs almost like circus dogs, right? Okay, you go on your platform, you're on your platform, you're on your platform. And in those moments, do you find that your dogs are relaxing, or are they attentive? And
Right. You can't really say that they're fully shut off in those moments. I mean, they might have been trained to look like they're shut off, but as soon as they hear their name, they know it's their turn to work, and they're right off that place. So I see where you're getting. Yeah.
right, they're tuned in, and they're waiting. And especially if that is that platform work or that mat work has been trained with like food rewards. And I'm not suggesting that we don't, but anytime you do that, you're kind of activating the dog, and you're keeping them kind of in the game. And if for sometimes you want them in the game, it's fine. If you're doing a go to your mat while I answer the door, that's
That's okay. Yeah.
fine. That's control, but that's not relaxing. So
I'm thinking of like trying to meditate with your phone in your hand. Like you just want to do that.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
Or even just meditating while you're snacking on a bowl of popcorn. Like it's not. It's different. So relaxation protocols are different than um, long stays or long placemat things in my book. So I usually don't work on a mat when I'm teaching my dogs to chill out. I will sometimes tether them, tether them to a heavy piece of furniture nearby, or just kind of, or hold the leash. I'll have a leash or something on them with a harness, or a collar, flat collar, a wide collar if they're relatively relaxed. Meaning they're not going to be pulling all the time. And we just kind of hang out. It's kind of literally teaching them to do nothing in your presence, and then occasionally calmly rewarding them. Maybe just talk to them just a little bit, or give them a little pat, or I'll sit on the couch or on the floor, and we'll just kind of do some belly rubs and some little massagey times, and I'll sit and talk to them. And maybe I do pull my phone out at this point, because we're just going to sit there. We're just going to hang out. Maybe so, because to me there are three different kind of skills, at least three different skills. Maybe you'll catch me. There's more. There's the active place command. There's like go to your place and wait for more instructions, and then there's let's just chill out together, kind of on cue. Like, can I get you to rest or chill for a minute? Maybe I need to groom you. Maybe I'm going to do your nails, or you're at the vet and I want you to just chill out. And then there's kind of this passive um, chill and chew kind of time where like I will give them a project, but it's a calming project. So just as much as I like to give dogs um, their active, mental stimulation, I like to give them passive, what I call passive chews and passive stimulation, which are usually food related toys that aren't active. So we're not talking about a puzzle game here or a wobbly thing that they have to whack around. We're talking instead about a toy that maybe they have to lick, lie down and put between their paws and lick to get out the good mushy stuff, or a real marrow bone, or even like an edible chew, I guess, falls into that category, like a pig ear or a bully stick, right? Where they're lying down and they're doing something, they're occupied, but they're not active. And that, I think, is one of the best ways to start, maybe a true relaxation, because the dog is still doing something and occupied and focused, and it's not as hard on the handler. We're just doing the tethering and the relaxing time. You have got to be prepared, and I think this is super important, to not relax yourself at first when you're doing relaxation training. You've got to be there to reset the dog or the puppy if they get up, and settle them back down, and reward them and talk to them and give them feedback when they're doing something that you would like. And I think people are afraid, like if the puppy's finally quiet, they don't want to say anything. They don't want to, but it's important to give them some feedback about when they're doing something that you enjoy. It's hard the first few times. So like if you don't want to celebrate, if your puppy is on if you're holding a leash, a short leash, and your puppy's on a tether near you, and they're pacing, or looking at you or poking you, and then they finally settle down, you don't want to go, yeah, and and get them all riled up, but you also don't want to necessarily ignore it. I would say, oh, good dog, good puppy, get that, good settle, maybe give them a little pat, maybe not. And yes, they may break then. Oh, we're up, we're doing something, but oh, no, settle back down. These are opportunities. Repetition is key. And when they learn that, what your calm tone means, just say, stay chill. It's kind of like a keep going signal. It's feedback, it's information, it's attention, but it doesn't mean that we're going to go do anything. That can transfer into your daily life. You shouldn't have to tiptoe around or not say hi on the phone or whatever it may be. So I think people don't want their dogs to get up, and they don't want it to restart. But restarting is repetition, and repetition is key to, it's practice. It's key to getting the behavior right. So it's okay if they get up. You can just settle them back down, but do give feedback. So chew toys, place settling to a degree, actual kind of like massagey downtimes, and I don't know. I would go back to also teaching. Would you ever use settle for a trick? Would you do that?
No, not so much. My settle is more of shut off. So if I ask for a settle, usually it's because I'm next to the dog, whether I'm sitting in a chair or like maybe I'm teaching a class and I really want my dog to actually just shut off and know that I'm not going to call you for anything. So settle is just a little bit more of relaxed. And then there's like, I'm not even paying attention to you at all, where I won't ask for a settle and it's just the dog's choice at that point. So hopefully they've practiced enough that their choice is not to be like jumping and spinning around at that point. So then they just offer a natural settle on their own.
But this is, I think, something that is challenging for people. You do have to provide context, right? And the clearer that we are, the better your success is going to be. So, you don't, if your dog is in a settle and shut off, it does mean, hey, you don't have to pay attention right now. Like you don't have to be alert. You can chew on your toy, or you can fall asleep, or roll over on your back and be, if you really want to. But there, you have to provide context cues that are different for these different behaviors, so that they understand that they don't have to be attentive like they would in a place on and and so I guess teaching people how to differentiate that. And a lot of true settle is literally just settling and waiting them out. And I think people get very frustrated with that at first and don't understand that's part of the process.
And I like that you mentioned earlier about changing your own tone in the way you're praising the dog. So if you're trying to train a puppy to settle, you're not like when they finally settle, you're not woohoo. You very calmly praise them. And I think a lot of people will be surprised just at how different that can make things. So if you start to control your own level of energy, the dogs innately pick up on that. And it's really a cool thing. So that can be a huge help. I'm glad you added that in.
Yeah, I think it really is just, it's kind of just, you've got to go through the weeds before you get there. And I think that's where people
Yeah.
get frustrated and quit, or by interacting too much when the dog isn't settling. So
Yeah.
if your puppy is next to you, or maybe on a line, whether tethered somewhere, or you're holding the leash, and they're not settling, well, the more that you talk to them then, or or push, like, lure them into a down, or push them off of you, or talk to them, even if you're irritated, stop, off, or no, no, all of that is interaction that is actually keeping the energy up.
Right.
And you're you're actually not, you're not settling, so they're not going to pick, they don't know what settle is, so you have to embody it. And that means truly often just letting them go through those loops, right? And waiting it out until you get that moment. And there will be a moment, always. I don't care how crazy you think your dog is. If you practice this for, you know 5 days in a row, with maybe 3 sessions a day, even if they're just 5 minutes or 10 minutes apiece, and I'm going to sit here, I'm going to kind of ignore my dog, and not like I'm going to ignore my dog, just like I'm going to sit here. This is the one time in training where I say, yeah, pull out your phone and like zone out, zone out, like, and the reason we're tethering is so that your dog can't go and make other choices,
Right.
and that they sit with you and be with you, so that they're not, leaving the room and going to get a toy, or barking out the window, or bothering, the cat, or whatever it may be. They're just learning that when I give a certain energy off and say a certain word, especially usually in certain contexts, like in the office or in a public place like a cafe, this is all that's going to happen, is we're just going to be here. And it's not going to go smoothly at first. But if you stick with it and don't interact or over interact when your dog is being active, and people get frustrated and they do start spinning, right? No, no,
Right.
off, and stay just calm and ignore as best you can. They'll start to get the picture, they'll start to get the picture. So I don't know that I have any really special, cool tricks for that, other than really like going through the weeds and just
Yeah. It's just the
doing it.
consistency of, yeah, just doing it. And it might not be the most exciting thing to practice. Like maybe once you start trying to meet your dog's needs with the tricks and the games, that is fun. But you have to remind yourself to practice the boring things or the frustrating things as well.
Yeah, definitely frustrating. I think that's it.
It might be fun if you're a dog trainer to practice, but
Yeah, I mean, it's not, it's not like, it's not going to make a dynamic YouTube video, but it's probably an important one. Or it could be a funny one, because sometimes they really don't settle at first. But just said something that was important about this. So when you're meeting needs, and of course, like, especially when you're just starting to teach your dog to settle, hedge your bets. It's okay to exercise your dog first, but the key is that it's not just physical exercise. As I said earlier, we want to make sure that we're doing really mental exercise is going to get you further faster than just letting the dog run with other dogs, running at the park, or running after a ball. All those active, repetitive behaviors um, really, really kind of get them into this emotional high that is not helpful. Um, but a long rambling walk in the woods, on a long line if you don't have control yet, or off leash if they're well enough to do that and it's legal, where they're sniffing and just kind of galloping around a little bit and then coming back to you, or and walking around a field. Sometimes I'll just take the dogs out on my I have a little mini farm here. It's only 5 acres, but sometimes I just go out and walk with them if I don't have time to go out to the woods or something. And it's not, oh, we're going to play ball, or oh, we're going to train. We're just going outside. I'll kind of meander around the property, and maybe I'll do a little bit of gardening or cleaning up, or maybe I won't. Maybe I'm just like hanging out and enjoying, watching them kind of sniff and run around. So they're doing that kind of activity is enriching and more natural, and it doesn't give that crazy dopamine high, without, that is then becomes like an addictive kind of thing. It just settles them down. But what I want to impress upon people is any of those kind of enriching things, whether it's training or like a decompression walk, or um, just an active chew toy, a little game, a little scent work game, hiding things. All of these things will wear your dog out faster and better than a game of fetch, basically. You don't have to meet your dog's needs. You don't have to spend 4 hours a day or 2 hours a day every day doing this, because I think people think, well, I don't have time. I don't have time to play, to do scent work. I don't have time to take a class. You don't need a ton if you're doing the right things. Of course, your dog needs time and energy, every day to a certain extent, but not every day needs to be a big event. So instead of taking that time to take your dog to a dog park, where then the other bad thing about going to a dog park, other than getting a super high and running around like crazy, is they're focusing so very intently off of you,
Right.
and all of the reinforcement is coming out from out there. And if anything, you're just a killjoy at the end, who ruins the fun when they're in this kind of frenzied, happy state. So, it's it's spending 10 minutes 3 times a day on a targeted activity where the two of you are working together, whether it's an actual settle activity or a place activity or a scent work game where you hand some favorite biscuits around the house or garden, and then let them find them, or practicing a trick, something as simple as, can you spin in one direction and then in another direction, or can you walk between my legs, can we weave, sit pretty, roll over. These things challenge their brains and are interactive and keep you in the picture for the things that are fun, which builds relationship, which then builds a better bond, obviously, which then breeds better communication. Because sometimes when people say their dogs are out of control or high energy, their dogs are also just really not that connected to them.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think because you gave so many different options here, there's the tricks and the sniffing and the settle. It's a good point to bring up variety too. So maybe not doing the same thing 2 days in a row, because there are so many options for sure.
Yeah, and it just I just have in my dog room. Yes, I have a dog room, and where we do training, and there's some beds and some crates, and all the dog toys live. I mean, of course, they're in the house all the time too, but I've got a lot of dog toys, so they're not all in the house all the time. Back to variety. There's we rotate, but I have a list. I just have a dry erase board that has a list of 10, I think 10 or 11 active activities, and then a list of like 4 or 5 like passive activities for, and because it helps other people in the house to know also and remember what to do. And it's like, hey, you can pick from these lists, and just and when I do shelter work, I have a similar list for all the various needs of the dogs, and you just check off. Oh, this one's been done today. This one's been done today. Oh, maybe it's a list for the week, and you can just go through until you've hit all the marks throughout the week. So variety really is the spice of life, and it keeps them super, they'll keep them super engaged. And anything that becomes habitual, I mean, habits can work in our favor sometimes, don't get me wrong, but anything that becomes habitual can become boring, and variety is lovely. So favorite chew toys, I rotate. They don't get all their favorite things at all times. We have a couple of things that we choose from, and then the rest get put away. And then when you bring them out again in a week or two, or a few days, how it depends on your dog's level of interest, they're like, oh, you don't have to go shopping. You don't have to go shopping all the time. Like, oh, I haven't seen this in weeks. I love this ball. And but you can do the same with your behaviors. Absolutely. Mix it up, mix it up. And yes, there are. I mean, we live in an age where there are so many online classes that you can take. If you don't have access to, a fun like tricks class or nose work class near you, or if you don't have the time to commit to that specifically, you can, do it on your own in an online self-guided course. And maybe you never want to compete and you can just mess around with all of the things. It's just going to enhance your relationship and giving that energy somewhere to go. Because that's the thing when people say they have a high energy dog, right? They just have this energy cloud and it's woo, 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 and then most people start tamping it down. It's like whack-a-mole because it's going to pop up over here. It's going to pop up over there. And maybe you really don't want it to pop up over there. And,
It'll pop up somewhere, that's for sure.
It is, right? It's
Yeah.
like you don't just get rid of it, So why not just choose? Like we're going to have a couple avenues, and this is where we can channel that energy and make it as useful as you want. It can be literally going to find your slippers or your keys, or it can be just fun and entertaining. It doesn't have to have any purpose other than building relationship and giving your dog an outlet, right?
Absolutely. I think these were some great tips. It's so hard. The question I usually ask at the end is the most difficult question. What is your number one tip from all of this? What do we want to leave our listeners with? What's your number one piece of advice for anyone who feels like they have a high energy dog?
If you have a high energy dog and you're maybe feeling frustrated, or even if you're not feeling frustrated, I guess, of all of the things that we've mentioned today, I think the number one thing that across the board helps the most dogs, regardless of what their natural scratchy, itchy, what they want to do, genetic, makeup is, what they're predisposed to do, is scent work.
Ooh.
It's scent work. Playing playing games where you're just hiding cookies. You start simple, hide under a towel right in front of them. Teach them to use their noses. They all have noses, no matter what breed. They don't have to be a bloodhound to be able to be an excellent sniffer and detector. And giving them permission to use that sense that is their primary sense, really. Dogs smell the world the way we see the world. And we are constantly shutting that down. Oh, get your nose out of there. Oh, get your nose out of the garbage can. No, quit sniffing that. We're walking. Oh, no, don't put your nose over there. And we're always, no, stop, stop, stop. And some dogs take that to heart and kind of stop sniffing, and other dogs are still going to sniff and get into trouble in other ways. But they all they will all appreciate. I've never had a dog that doesn't appreciate an opportunity and permission to use their nose and to solve little puzzles and hunt and search. Old dogs, young dogs, fearful dogs, aggressive dogs, reactive dogs, little dogs, big dogs, blind dogs. I have done it all with scent work, and there's not a dog that doesn't enjoy that and doesn't. It seemed kind of magical, and I think it is just because it is such a basic core need for a dog, to be able to use their nose. But it's the one thing that no matter what the problem is or the issue is, or the thing that you don't like, it gets better when they have an opportunity to sniff.
I agree with that. I think that's a great tip.
Yeah, that's my favorite, and it's the easiest because you don't really need anything.
Yeah,
a couple treats or some kibble. You can just hide some food. You don't have to, even have treats if you don't want to, or hide their toys as you get better at it. Be creative, and it's kind of their superpower. and we just don't appreciate it or even acknowledge it in a lot of ways. So any dog, I will stand by this. I guess unless they have an olfactory medical issue, any dog will benefit from having a little like hunting and detection game, even if it's just in your house or garden. And it's a great tip for the winter too. Here in the northern hemisphere, we're starting to go into darker, colder times, and it's a great way to burn off some energy if there's a storm or it's too dark when you get home, or it's cold and you don't want to go outside. Totally do it inside too.
Absolutely. I think this was some very valuable information, and I really appreciate you being here today. I want to make sure the listeners here know where to find you. Where can we find your work?
Right now, really, the best place to find me is either in the Dunbar Academy with the Essential Puppy Training course. I actually do a live online lesson every week, a couple of them actually, in the Dunbar Academy. And I have but mostly I'm on social media. You can find me on Facebook. It's just my name, Kelly Gorman Dunbar, or on Instagram as well. And yeah, I'm happy to chat with people. I'm happy to help people. And I've got videos so you can see what I do with my dogs. And I also do have the Dog Training League. If you're a little more of a deep dive kind of person and you want to learn more, it's an online community and kind of training club and mentoring center. It's kind of it's a little bit of everything for people who want to deep dive in dog training. You don't have to be a dog trainer to join, but we do videos and courses and lectures and Q&As in there every week. So the Dog Training League is also, it's a great place. So that's basically where you can find me these days.
So we will post these links alongside this video so anyone who's listening can find you for sure. And to our listeners, thank you so much for being here. We hope this information is helpful. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, share, and like so that we know that you enjoyed it and that we can reach more pet parents with expert guests and tips for dog training. Thanks so much for being here. Until next time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.